Welcome to Hypertrend YouTube channel. Here on this channel, we dive deep into various topics in general, unpacking complex ideas, uncovering hidden layers, and exploring different perspectives and perceptions. Whether you're a curious mind or a dedicated researcher, you're in the right place for thoughtful, in-depth discussions that go beyond the surface. We aim to inform, inspire, and sometimes challenge your thinking. Disclaimer: the content shared on this channel is intended for informational and educational purposes only. While we strive for accuracy and thoroughness, the views expressed in these discussions reflect personal interpretations and are not intended to substitute for professional advice or definitive conclusions. All information is based on publicly available sources, research, and opinion, and may evolve over time. Viewers are encouraged to do their own research and think critically. Respectful dialogue is welcome. Let's keep it open-minded and be constructive. Many thanks.
Okay, so you've tuned in for another deep dive, and today we're unpacking a YouTube video transcript you shared. It's called War on Lies from the Kugaran channel.
Right.
Our goal here is, well, pretty crucial, to really dig into the core information, understand the arguments the speaker's making in this video.
Yeah, pull out those key insights, help make sense of some very serious allegations being put forward.
Exactly. And it's worth noting, the speaker kind of frames his perspective through his past, right? His involvement in that 2003 Makati incident with the Magdalo group.
That's right. He mentions that early on, though, I mean, the main focus, the real core of his claims, centers on events starting much later, from 2016 onwards. But that context is there.
It gives some background. And he's pretty clear about why he's sharing all this. He says it's about, love for the country requires truth.
Not just talk, jokes, or curses, as he puts it.
Right. And then he zeroes in pretty quick on 2016, specifically the killings, as he terms them.
Yeah, that's the starting point for the main narrative he lays out.
Okay, so let's start there. The initial reaction, particularly in the Senate, to what was happening back then.
Well, according to the speaker, being a senator in the opposition after 2016, he and others were getting seriously alarmed. Alarmed by the sheer number of deaths happening daily.
Just the volume of it.
Exactly. And he stresses that when they filed resolutions in the Senate, it wasn't like just to disrupt things.
Not just to oppose.
No, he presents it as part of their basic job,
Yeah.
A check and balance, trying to prevent potential abuses of power within the government itself.
So a necessary function, in their view, to scrutinize everything. Which, okay, leads us directly into these really troubling allegations about the Devout Death Squad, the DDS, and the key testimonies.
This is where it gets quite detailed. The speaker brings up Sergeant Arturo Lasas first. Initially, Lasas denied any involvement with the DDS.
Denied it completely.
According to the speaker, yes. And then he mentions quite starkly that Lasas later died in Davao City. Yeah. After that, he introduces Edgar Matabato, identifies him as an, quote, original member of the DDS, going way back, like 1989, 1990.
An original member. And Matabato's testimony was detailed.
Incredibly detailed, based on the speaker's account. He says Matabato laid out the whole thing, how the DDS started, who the leaders were, the structure, their methods, how they carried out the killings.
Wow.
This covered the period right up until Matabato left, which the speaker says was around 2011 or 2012. And apparently Matabato claimed he left because he was falsely accused of a murder.
So he felt framed, and that prompted him to act. He went to the Department of Justice in Manila then, in 2014.
That's the sequence presented. The speaker says Matabato's stated reason for going to the DOJ was, well, to expose what they did in Davao City and to seek justice for the victims.
To reveal everything.
Right. Apparently, NBI agents questioned him, tried to verify his story, and that kicked off a deeper investigation.
And that investigation pulled in the Senate? Is that how it worked?
Well, that's the narrative. The speaker explains that people Matabato named as DDS members, including PNP members, Philippine National Police, were called before the Senate.
Okay.
And it was during that process, according to the speaker, that Sergeant Lasas eventually, well, he flipped, admitted that everything Matabato had said was true.
Really? After denying it?
Yes. And apparently Lasas didn't just confirm it, he provided more specific details about the DDS activities.
That's quite a turnaround. Someone denying, then corroborating, and adding even more. Did the speaker mention Lasas giving a reason? Or an apology?
He does. The transcript mentions Lasas expressing an apology, asking for understanding about his earlier denials, and he specifically acknowledged Matabato's testimony about the DDS being organized under then-Mayor Rodrigo Duterte. And the speaker emphasizes that these testimonies, Matabato's and Lasas together, they formed the initial basis for the communication filed with the International Criminal Court the ICC.
Right, the ICC involvement, that's obviously a huge element in all this.
Absolutely huge. The Speaker makes sure to clarify this filing happened while the Philippines was still an ICC member. That was November 2011 to March 2019.
Okay, timeline's important there.
Very. And he really highlights Sergeant Less's memory, calls it almost photographic. He says ICC investigators cross-examined Less's for a whole week.
A week. Trying to find holes in his story.
Trying to find inconsistencies, yeah. But according to the Speaker, the details Less's provided stayed consistent the entire time.
And these details weren't just generalities, they were specific cases.
Extremely specific, according to the Speaker. He references Less's affidavit 186 pages long.
186 pages.
Yeah. Allegedly filled with details on numerous murder cases, names of the hit squad members, getaway drivers, the weapons they used, even where victims were killed, where they were taken, where they were buried. The level of detail described is pretty staggering.
You can see why the Speaker calls him a star witness then. And there was mention of witness protection.
Yes. The Speaker cites a 2017 New York Times report saying Lessas was already in ICC custody by then, receiving protection. This was relating to his time under Duterte as mayor.
Okay.
And then the Speaker adds another layer, claims another hitman had entered the ICC's witness protection program even before Lessas. And crucially, that this person's testimony backed up Lessas's account.
So corroboration from another alleged insider.
Strengthening the evidence against Duterte is the Speaker's point.
This paints a deeply disturbing picture. And the Speaker then talks about a shift, doesn't he? From the Davao death squad to something bigger, a national death squad.
That's the next phase in the narrative. He relays Lessas's testimony, claiming he was actually present when the DDS operation sort of went national under President Duterte.
So the Davao model, but applied countrywide.
That's the suggestion, using the same template, as the Speaker puts it. And he details an alleged reward system for the killings.
A reward system for killing people.
Allegedly, yes, to incentivize the members. Which, if true, suggests a shift maybe from, ideology to something purely mercenary.
And the amounts varied.
That's the claim. PHP 5,000 to 10,000 for small targets, he says. But big targets could fetch anywhere from PHP 50,000 up to 300,000 pesos per kill.
And they were given information, like photos and addresses.
Yeah, allegedly given pictures, addresses, target info, everything they needed.
The Speaker also mentioned something about the initial mindset of these guys, the killers.
He does. He relays the claim that Matabato and others at first maybe believed they were helping society, getting rid of criminals.
Cleaning up the streets, that kind of justification.
Something like that. But the Speaker says their motivation reportedly became about the rewards, and then, critically, they started questioning who they were targeting.
Doubt started creeping in.
Especially, according to the Speaker, after one alleged incident involving killing a whole family, including a pregnant woman and a child. That apparently really shook them, made them reconsider what they were actually doing.
That's horrific.
Yeah.
This alleged escalation is deeply concerning. The narrative then pivots again, doesn't it, to alleged connections with individuals described as drug lords.
Yeah, this is another major thread. The Speaker claims that way back in 2003, Losses was introduced by Duterte to three men, Michael Yang, Sammy Uy, and Charlie Tan.
Introduced by Duterte himself.
Allegedly. And Duterte supposedly promised them protection. The Speaker then makes the extremely serious accusation that these men were Chinese drug lords.
Involved in what exactly?
Importing the precursor chemicals needed to make shabu, methamphetamine, and then exporting the finished drug product. That's the allegation.
And there was an incident mentioned involving a Captain Azerto connected to this.
Yes, the Speaker recounts a story where Captain Azerto reportedly uncovered these activities, and the Chinese chemists involved were then allegedly killed. Allegedly. And the Speaker claims Duterte ordered the killing of 9 other Chinese individuals connected to that shabu lab.
Good grief.
He also brings up an incident involving a Mr. Alan C. and 10 others. Duterte denied involvement, but Lessas's account, according to the Speaker, suggests Alan C. identified Michael Yang as his boss, the one holding his passport.
And the Speaker's interpretation of this?
His take is that this shows Duterte was actively protecting his links to a drug lord in Davao.
It's a very tangled web of accusations he's laying out. And then this Michael Yang, he later gets a government position, a pretty significant one.
That's right. According to the Speaker, when Duterte became president in 2016, Michael Yang was appointed as a presidential economic advisor.
An economic advisor, Chinese citizen.
The Speaker raises that exact question. He says he questioned why a non-Filipino would get such a sensitive role. And his conclusion, or the one he presents, is that it was a signal.
A signal to whom?
To the bureaucracy, the AFP, the PNP, a signal that Yang had protection right from the top.
So not just a normal appointment in the speaker's view, it carried a message. And then Colonel Acerto comes back into the story.
Yes, the same Captain Acerto from the 2004 Shabu lab incident, now a colonel. In 2017, the speaker says, Acerto identified Michael Yang as being behind that earlier operation too.
But Acerto didn't know about Yang's connection to Duterte at first.
Apparently not, according to the speaker. He was unaware of how close Yang was to the president.
So what did Acerto do with this information?
The speaker says Acerto prepared a report. The idea was to let various government agencies know that one of Duterte's own advisors was allegedly a drug lord. Maybe thinking Duterte himself didn't know.
And the reaction.
Allegedly, retaliation from Duterte. The speaker claims Duterte implicated Acerto in illegal drugs instead.
Turn the tables on him.
That's the claim. Acerto reportedly ended up seeking protection from a religious group because there was an alleged PHP 5 million hit put on him.
5 million, a bounty.
Allegedly. And the speaker states that Acerto is now also reportedly a witness with the ICC. Had to go into hiding because he feared for his life.
It seems like, based on this narrative, getting close to these alleged activities had severe consequences, which leads to the speaker's overall view of the war on drugs.
Yeah, he really sums it up starkly. He argues that while Duterte was publicly hammering drug pushers and dealers,
Very publicly.
he was allegedly the one running a major drug cartel himself, involving Michael Yang, Charlie Tan, and Sammy Wu.
And how did this alleged cartel operate?
The alleged method involved importing huge amounts of shabu through customs, with help, the speaker claims, from Pulong Duterte, someone called Man Scorpio, and the customs commissioner at the time, Feldon.
Yep, he mentions the magnetic lifters incident too.
He does, where the canine dogs supposedly detected shabu, but Duterte dismissed it. And the speaker points out that despite these massive alleged shipments, no major drug lords were actually prosecuted for them.
So his conclusion about the whole war on drugs is pretty damning.
His assertion is that it was all a front, a deception, designed to eliminate competition and monopolize the drug trade for his own alleged syndicate. And he makes that incredibly strong statement, challenging anyone to prove him wrong, saying he'd hang himself and sign a waiver for access to all his bank accounts if his claims are false.
That's quite a statement to make publicly.
Yeah.
He then talks about bank accounts, doesn't he, and wealth accumulation.
Yes, he shifts to finances. Claims she got info back in 2016 about the bank accounts of Duterte and his family, showing what he calls surprisingly large amounts of money.
Specific accounts.
He mentions joint accounts between Duterte and his daughter, Sarah Duterte, and alleges regular deposits, like dividends, every 6 months.
From who?
From Sammy Wu, allegedly, going into the accounts of Duterte, Sarah, Bast, Pulong, and someone named Hamlet. And the amounts claimed are huge, PHP 40 to 55 million each time.
Every 6 months, for each of them.
That's the allegation. These kinds of figures, if true, naturally raise questions about financial oversight.
And the speaker's takeaway is clear. He believes the whole family benefited from illegal drugs.
That's the direct assertion, yes. He even links these alleged accounts to a potential impeachment case against Sarah Duterte, suggesting that process could bring these transactions to light.
So it all ties together in his view.
And he repeats his main conclusion, that Duterte, despite the tough talk on drugs, was allegedly the biggest drug cartel leader in the country.
But the speaker doesn't stop at drugs, right? He alleges other illegal activities too.
No, he broadens the scope significantly. Claims Duterte's alleged syndicate was involved in other things, a farm, and major profiteering during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Profiteering from the pandemic.
He specifically targets the Sinovac vaccine deal, alleges a huge markup, PHP 2,000 per vial, on an order of 50 million vials.
Do the math on that.
He claims it resulted in PHP 100 billion in profit, and connects this to, allegedly, deliberately hindering the entry of Pfizer and Moderna vaccines.
So blocking competitors to maximize profit on one deal.
That's the accusation. And he claims this profiteering wasn't just vaccines.
What else?
Masks, PPE, face shields, ventilators, rapid tests, RT-PCR kits. Basically, essential pandemic supplies. He alleges the syndicate profited hugely from all of them.
It's a sweeping set of accusations about exploiting a crisis.
Absolutely. And he adds another major element, POJOs, Philippine offshore gaming operators.
Right, the online gambling outfits.
He claims the Duterte syndicate brought them into the country, and that these POJers became centers for human trafficking, cyber pornography, and massive money laundering.
He connects this to recent news, too.
He mentions the Quadcom hearings, bringing up names like Alice Wu, allegedly linked to POJos and maybe other illicit stuff. His overall conclusion here is stark. Duterte served Michael Yang of China, not the Filipino people.
Okay, so after laying out all these incredibly serious charges, the speaker does address the counter-argument, right? That this is all just politics.
Yes, he anticipates that people might dismiss it as just political infighting, especially with the current Marcos Duterte tensions.
How does he counter that?
He states very clearly that he filed his case way back in 2017, long before President Marcos was even in the picture.
Okay, so the timing doesn't fit the political harassment narrative in his view.
Exactly. And he adds that the ICC had already been investigating for almost a year before Marcos became president. So he insists this isn't about political harassment, it's about pursuing justice for the alleged victims.
And he ends on a note of commitment.
Yeah, he reiterates that he's still committed to this cause and expresses a belief that people in the Philippines desire real change.
Well, this has certainly been a deep dive into some extensive and frankly shocking allegations presented in that YouTube transcript.
Extremely serious claims.
And it's really important for you listening to remember our focus today was strictly on relaying the information as presented in that source material. We aim to clearly lay out the speaker's perspective, the details, the claims he shared.
And grappling with all this information, these detailed accusations, and the timeline the speaker presents, it really leads to a final thought for you to consider. Well, what does hearing all this prompt you to research further, or to think more critically about? When it comes to accountability, the pursuit of truth, especially in such a complex situation.
That's a heavy question. It definitely encourages reflection on these huge issues.
Yeah.
And maybe seeking out more information, different perspectives from credible sources.
Exactly. Food for thought.